Carr.
On behalf of Robert Bosch LLC, thank you, Charlie, for allowing me to come and address the group today. Just a couple of comments before I launch into this. This presentation is an idea generation. It's really a summary of some thoughts that I've had with other, I guess I'd call them industry experts. We're just sitting around through the course of several months just talking about things and putting ideas together and seeing what would stick. So what I'm going to present to you today is a concept. It's more of a concept to see if it gains any traction. We feel that quite possibly it could be a next step to take. There are really three elements to the presentation that I'm going to give today, and it's addressing essentially how we manage data management from a diagnostic systems developer. Okay, I can just tell you, I even say this with pain, there's a lot of data out there. If you're trying to be an all makes, all models, scan tool development, there's a lot of parametric data that you have to go through. And I know that the car companies have to generate this data for their own OEM tools, as well as the data that they provide the ETI or through other license agreements. I think everyone would agree that it is a large volume of data. Coming with such a huge expanse of data is a strong effort to manage it. And I also want to talk a little bit about some industry partnering possibly that, again, is a concept of how we could improve this process. So if I can address the large amount of parametric data topic, I can share with you, it's no secret, if you're in this world of developing diagnostic systems, you're going to use documents of the following formats: .doc, .odx, .pdf, .sql, .text, .xls, XML, etc. Okay, it's I guess the analogy is drinking from a fire hose, and you got to have expertise in a lot of different areas. You got to have special software tools that allows you to interpret. There's just a lot going on in this space. Okay, the data coming at us in this world describes a lot of different forms, such as vehicles and systems and ECUs and trouble codes and parameters and controls and scripted tests and things like this. Okay, so I'm trying to set the framework real quickly here on one slide that this data set, it truly is endless. It's very voluminous. As it says, there are thousands of records of information. So the effort to manage these thousands of records of information again gets multiplied across the large number of makes, at least that we are trying to support. Okay, and this is the exciting part. That's the opportunity, right? Because if we can do that, then we can have a better thing in the marketplace. Okay, collectively though, the data set now becomes even larger. So we have a management issue, and it costs a lot of money, costs a lot of labor. People have to touch the keyboard to do stuff to manage all of this into our business system. So a possible concept of how marketing could, or partnering could occur in such a system, such a world, such an ideal world maybe. A generic data template, and it's just a loosely termed name, and the GDT doesn't really mean much right now. But this container, if you will, would be something generic, because I think that very easily one who's an expert in this space could argue that data, parametric data of this time to describe an ECU interface is very constant, regardless if it's, you know, OEM A through OEM Z. These systems it's pretty defined. So we'd have a template. We would have some tools, software tools that would import data. But we would have a very first requirement is that we would have no complex solution. And if you'd like, I'll give you my opinion on what is meant by a complex solution, but not an open forum. I'd have to do that out in the hallway maybe. The tool companies, we would have to then step up to work with the OEM in a more rigorous, a more salubrious type of relationship, and we would have extraction tools, okay, that we would create to pull this information into what we would call this generic data template. One side benefit of this is that the OEM would be able to realize the requirement to satisfy legislation through providing data very efficiently. Continuing on in industry partnering, part two, the tool companies would find a way to standardize the GDT system through itself or an existing standardization body. It's just a concept where we would take it, who knows, but we could lay down some framework and some sort of documentation that tells the world how to, fall into place, so to speak. And we would have some recurring work here. We would collect data, again, into many formats. We would cleanse it, normalize it, and optimize it. And that really is what we're asking, such a solution to try to do. We feel strongly that how my company would display data in a GUI would be very different from how someone else's company is doing it. And that's the fun part, okay? But getting this base, the data set, somehow cleansed, normalized, that's the lion's share of the idea here. And then we would output this data in a generic data template, some sort of format, again, that Charlie and his crew could keep tabs on and make it available through their members. So, and by the way, I was able to present this, I was fortunate enough to present this same presentation at SAE Congress in March or April of this year. And when it came to this slide here, we had lots of good discussion. I'll keep it a little more formal here at the bigger group. But we rattled around the idea of, does this make sense? Just in general, sanity check. Is this going down the right road? The answer I've been given so far through one-on-one comments since, I think it was April 13th, has been yes. Generally, we're going in the right direction with this concept. There's a lot of data out there, and the feeling of being able to find a better way to manage it seems to be accepted. Are there skilled labor to perform this task? Well, my comment to that is we have an employment problem in the USA today, so I would generally say yes. And I would generally say that the financial space, as the U.S. hopefully moves from a fire economy to a techie economy, that there's a lot of people, unemployed database experts, people who know how to manage data coming from the financial space. Okay, so this maybe could be a source for people to do that. So do we have skilled people available to do this work? Sure, I think so. A lot of other people I've discussed this with also think so. And then finally, are our business system costs high enough such that now we have to address this issue through some sort of efficiency? Again, comment coming back is yes. Someone shared with me that in preparation of a data release that this particular OEM has to do for ETI on a yearly basis through the ETI Summer Tech Week and Japanese Tech Week, we get data releases. This one particular OEM said that it takes them about 1 man year to generate a 1 model year's worth of parametric information. So we can see that there's volumes of information there. So with that, that's the idea, the concept here, and my presentation is finished. Thank you very much. Questions now, Charlie? You want to do it later? Any questions on this topic?
Did I understand your slide right that you were suggesting that tool companies produce this data in generic data template format rather than the OEMs?
It would not be a wholesale tool company only solution. We'd have to have, it to be a rigorous partnership, because the idea here is not to disrupt the OEM software generation cycle, okay? If the OEM would, with working with such a team like this, would find a way to be more efficient, sure. But currently, the thought was we would try to understand what that process is, find a way where this information could get plugged into, okay, this team would get plugged into and extract that information without any impact to your current or any OEM's current process. Pull it in and manage it and cultivate it, do all the right things with it for playback to the tool and equipment members. Okay, that's the general concept.
I have some follow-up questions, but I think
Sure.
I'll ask you afterwards.
Well, you can do it now, and we'd have a wonderful, salubrious discussion. I'm ready.
You make tools for a wide variety of brands of cars. I make a tool for one brand of cars. Obviously, both of us do data extraction from various OEM tools, okay? And obviously, both of us spend a considerable amount of effort extracting data from various OEM tools and reverse engineering how they work, looking at what happens between the OEM tool and the car and so on. But I guess my follow-up question is, how does it benefit you, Robert Bosch, or me, a guy who makes a tool for one particular brand of car, after we extract that data to share it with anybody else?
Well, I'm smiling because this has been a topic actually that's come back and forth, and Mark's down there. Because in effect, we would make that easier, right? So in other words, any one of our competitors amongst us would be able to get this data in a more normalized manner and be able to produce something, right? I mean, is that the concern here?
Yeah. Why do you want to make it easier for your competitors, and why would I want to make it easier for my competitors?
Right. That's a very good question, and it's been around for years. Currently, the thought is that there is so much data to work with. We have duplicity. You're doing the same thing that we're doing, and so are the other ETI tool members. Can we not think about how a more economical way to essentially cultivate this data to a normalized format and stop right there, just have that data. You know that this is what the relationships are in some sort of schema, okay, but you know that you're going to get that data in that format. From that point, however, how we would display data or how you would display data or any other ETI member would display data, that's up to them. That's the fun part. That's the part that, is it better to buy this box or that box or this other tool? That would be the challenge, okay? So right at that, the cleansing and making that data in that new type of GDT relationship, that's where the commonality would stop.
Thank you.
So the broad vision, then, you're talking about the aftermarket being able to get this data you're talking about on brand new out of the showroom vehicles, or after the warranty period, or both? What is the...
Well, currently ETI receives data for the current model year during that same model year. So I think the question is both. The answer to the question is both. Also, ETI members have a mainstream aftermarket service solution, but we also have, some of the companies have what we would call national account activities. And in this case, the national account people, they're more than likely dealing with a fleet who's buying brand new vehicles. And those fleet managers for those groups around the U.S., they want to make sure they have a salubrious or strong diagnostic solution. So they would need newer vehicle support.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm just curious. I have there we go. That's a good start. I got, I think, a two-part question. If I'm understanding you correctly, by having it in some kind of standardized general format, any tool maker could sell one box or one tool that would be able to accommodate all of the service, or not service information, but the tool information. One box with one piece of equipment in a shop would be needed from that manufacturer. Is that correct? Possible?
Generally, yes, that would be possible.
Okay. Second question.
Depending on how good your engineering team is, but yes.
I understand. It could be possible. That's what I was looking for. Then extending from that, my next question is, are we approaching a time where all tool information, or for that matter, service information, could be delivered as an app to any technician's smart device?
love that question. That's a great question.
There you go. Paid you back.
Yeah. No, that's a wonderful. Actually, the answer is two parts. The smartphone solution is, that's more entrepreneurial. Let's face it. I'm fairly certain there's one car manufacturer that later this year will be providing a solution that falls in such a framework. There's people out there. I mean, there's a lot of opinion. There's people out there that say the small handheld thing is the way to go. A lot of people, shop owners tell us that they don't like that because then it walks when, Freddie, the bad technician that they just let go, it also walked with them. So there's pro and con to that, but that doesn't mean that such a smart device has to be a small framework like a phone, right? Tablets are emerging, so maybe there's a solution in that. It's worth talking about. And I believe that there are people in the industry who are collecting information in terms of use cases to see where that lands. It's possible that maybe ETI should do a survey. I can tell you that within Bosch, we do our own surveys, so we're well aware of, at least we think from our perspective, but I'm sure, some of my colleagues at other tool companies might have, their own opinion on that. So the smartphone thing is, I don't think we can ignore that. I think we have to look at that at some level, but where it actually plays a role yet, it's not exactly known. I would say that, what we have to try to do is find a way that builds stuff that people want to use. And so if there's a way to construct a forum to talk about how we do that on an open manner, I think would be nothing but great for this industry. There's more to it when we start sitting down and actually, I'm not sure if you're an OEM or an aftermarket-oriented, individual, but if if you interrogate a technician from a European car company, you're going to get a totally different answer if you ask the same set of questions to an aftermarket service technician. And the problem is that if we want to keep this industry, fun, we really should try to understand both sides of that, in my opinion, because, these techs, they bounce around, they bounce from dealerships. A lot of guys, they spend 10 years in a dealership, become very educated, and they have a lot of stuff in their intellectual toolkit, and then they walk out the door and they go to work for, Charlie's Garage, and then, off they go in a different sort of experience. So I really do like your questions. My second answer is I hope we could continue such a discussion. It would help everybody who's trying to make diagnostic systems. Bob?
Bernie? Well, let me ask part two of what Mr. Chabot just, I think, alluded to. I hear from a lot of technicians, and there seems to be a drive, rather than buying more scan tools, to buying a universal interface device, like a J2534 on steroids, and then connecting to the OEM apps, such as Toyota did with TechStream. How does your model fit in with that scheme, which is certainly a discussion topic?
The model here today, the GDT model, well, the GDT is just basically taking a lot of stuff that, when you look at it from our perspective, it's a problem it's a problem set that's always moving, and you always have to come at it, and every day you have to come at it with a new attempt to understand it. So we would. This is only part of that. Just being able to take that entropic, is that a word I could use here, and kind of take that whole entropic system and move it into some sort of a more commonized framework. through the generic data template.
I mean,
And again, the generic data template, that's just a term that we just contrived right now. It could take on some other form.
I'm looking at the movement of the OEMs, and most of them have moved to a very small, low-cost interface device.
Well, I think that we're going to be covering that in the next presentation.
Okay.
But just one more thing on Bernie's point, though, is that what Bernie's talking about here and what you guys are talking about really aren't the same. I mean,
That's why I'm asking the question.
because what this GDT that he's talking about is required regardless of the delivery system. And, whether you need a lump in the cable to translate protocols or don't need one, you still need this. Because you get data in a raw form from an OEM, and you need to be able to put it in your database some way. So we're looking at a universal template where you could do that. And you would need that regardless of all these other...
Well, I understand your point, and that's not what I was suggesting. I mean, what I'm suggesting is there's a large movement in the aftermarket to be using the OEM application. I was just curious.
I know, but that's what's going to be covered.
Okay.
Not by this presentation, but by the next one.
Thank you, everyone.